Welcome back, YouTube. We are on the bottom side of the motor. I got the heads installed, torque down, push rods are in, lifters are in. It's a new timing cover. There's a video on that if you're interested in how to put those in. The water pump's roughly assembled. I am going to be putting in oil pan studs on this motor, so I figure I'll take you guys along with that. Hopefully everything fits. I haven't test fit any of those yet, but when you put your timing cover on, before you put the pan gasket on, you're going to have a section of the paper gasket that will form a ridge right here. Definitely need to make sure you're cutting that out. Normally I like doing this away from the internal sides of the motor, but in this case I'm just going to be careful here. Just like that. So you're just cutting out the big gasket area where these surfaces meet. You want that to be a nice, flat, smooth transition. You are going to want to put a little bit of silicone on here in this bridged section since it is split. One of my least favorite parts of the Ford design on this block is that the timing cover and the oil pan made up here, plus they run their 9,000 different variations of water pump and timing chain combinations to make life even more difficult for people that are throwing together mismatched parts. But here we are there. Let me find my stud kit. Rogue bolts is where I got these. I think they were on the on eBay. Rogue bolts. I ran the same set, I think, in my truck. Totally unnecessary. I do have all the stock oil pan bolts too, but in terms of putting the oil pan gaskets on and things like that, I find these to be a lot easier. So, since we're doing studs and I don't want them coming out, we're going to use some 272 Loctite on these. Don't need to go crazy on this, just a couple drops. Make sure when you're putting the studs in, if you do get one of these kits, there is a hex head on the top here. Let's see if that'll focus. You got a base side, it's just like a regular bolt, and you got a hex side. Should be pretty straightforward, but if you get sloppy or you're rushing, you're not paying attention, that won't be fun when you go to tighten them in. I am still waiting on a ton of different parts for this motor. Finally put another order in today. A lot of the stuff I just can't get. It's back ordered or unknown estimated delivery date, but there's still a ton to do to get this car rolling. It's one of those I was overly optimistic, thinking I'd be able to get it going down the road quickly. Not that I don't have other things keeping me busy, but I was hoping for like a 1-month drive thing on this project car with no motor, which was way over the top optimistic. I also didn't expect there to be parts shortages on things that I've never had problems getting in the past, but because of that, it gave me time to spend more money on things like oil pan stud kits that are completely unnecessary. Falcon now, I got the rear end in, I got all the brake hardware for rebuilding the drums in the rear, new pads, shoes, hardware kit, whole 9 yards there. Grabbed a couple alternators and the V8 motor mount brackets that I needed for the frame, not the regular mounts but the actual frame mounts. Picked those ones up at a junkyard. Which worked out really well, because apparently those aren't the easiest things in the world to find. But the guy I bought the rear end from hits a bunch of the scrap yards. He gave me a lead on that. That's why you build relationships with people and have conversations. Never know what you're going to need or when you're going to need something or when somebody needs something else. It's the best way to go. Pulling the timing cover ones out just a little bit. Those holes were drilled a little bit deeper than the other ones. That's all my oil pan for the small ones. And then on the Fords, on the small blocks, you got two per side, 4 total. 4 bigger 5/16 thread. 5/16 by, I don't know, coarse thread. Was that 18 or something? So 1/4 20s are on the bottom, and then 5/16 on the end of the block. Definitely going to put Loctite on these back ones since they will go all the way through the block. And since we're not trying to go all the way through the block, make sure you're Loctiting these, otherwise these ones won't hold. Same thing on the front ones. There's a throughway on the bottom of the housing. So good Loctite there will definitely help you. Make sure it's the red one because there are studs. You don't want those pulling out with the motor or with the bolts when you put those on. And that wraps up the bottom end. I have an oil pan here. I'm going to clean this out real quick and throw it on here for mock-up. It is not going on permanently. I'm not putting the gaskets or anything in. I do not know which oil pan is going to clear the subframe since this has never gone into the car. So I got to check the motor mounts and figure out, get those motor mounts installed, and then basically put the motor trans in, drop everything in, and figure out what's going to clear, what's not going to clear. Like I said, I got a dual sump down here. I have a front sump here. This one, if I want to use this one, I need to switch out the oil pickup tube for something different. So it's just a matter of figuring out which one the car is going to need once we get it all back together. But I'm going to let this Loctite set up, then I'll clean out that oil pan down on the ground and throw that one on here for now.